Pat, I don't know what kind of feedback you hear from Buckeyes fans in regards to their expectations for this game, but my goodness, there's always a 50, a 45 or 52 next to Ohio State in terms of the live chats that we have here. And then there's always a 21 or 24 next to it. Like most Ohio State fans, if my channel's any barometer, expect Ohio State to win this game by anywhere from 2 to 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. And honestly, without really looking into Notre Dame, I paid attention to what they did during spring practice, as much as I could while also covering Ohio State. I think that's an offense that's going to have trouble keeping up with Ohio State. And I think, at least on paper, and that's where I think most people are kind of looking at that. You expect Ohio State's defense, even if it is the first game, to be better than it was last year. So therefore, Notre Dame, if Ohio State can get a few stops, Notre Dame has to figure out a way to keep up. Can they stop Ohio State's offense? Well, if Ohio State's offense is as good as it was last year, probably not very frequently. So I think that's kind of the perception there. Now, again, we don't know a ton about what this Notre Dame team is going to look like. Yes, the spring game didn't look great offensively, but they have a whole offseason to work on things. Marcus Freeman, obviously a defensive first coach. He's familiar with Ohio State, not just because he played here, but was coaching at Cincinnati for quite a while. I'm sure he's kept up with what the Buckeyes have done. And now he adds a guy like James Laurinaitis, who was analyzing the Buckeyes locally and for the Big Ten Network to his staff the last several years. So that helps. I understand where those predictions are coming from. And, I think that that's probably what you'll see a lot of people predict as we get closer, even kind of the experts, just because of what I said. How it plays out, we'll certainly see. I think oftentimes those week one games tend to be lower scoring, maybe a shorter margin. I mean, you've even seen some of the Alabama neutral site games some years be a little bit closer than you expected, or maybe Alabama pulls away late, even when they're not playing a top team. So, it's always tough week one to predict what it's going to look like, especially on, a spread type of situation.
The new Notre Dame quarterback, Tyler Buckner, did not participate in the spring game. He had kind of a fluke injury, but he should be fine. You're looking at a new quarterback, but at the same time, almost in a J.J. McCarthy, Michigan fashion, played in a lot of various packages and meaningful games. So he's not completely like a C.J. Stroud entering 2021 where he didn't see the field. He played quite a bit, but wasn't the starter. But so he's not necessarily going to get wowed by the situation. He's played in a Fiesta Bowl and a lot of marquee games in spurts. So that'll be something to keep an eye on as well.
Well, and
Pat, anything else?
Yeah, just one thing. I think fans were a little worried this game was going to end up being a big noon kickoff. And they've announced since last time we talked that it'll be a night game. And I think that does help Ohio State from the perspective of getting the actual home field advantage. I'm sure people listening to this have seen Ohio State at some of those noon games. The Oregon game was solid crowd. I mean, a good crowd, but it took a while for the fans to really get into it. I think when you have all day to prepare and whatnot, that certainly helps. And I certainly think despite maybe some recent marquee games going the way of the visiting team at Ohio Stadium in terms of those non-conference matchups, I still think having that crowd behind this Buckeye team week one at night will be will sway things a little bit Ohio State's way.
And again, looking at the entirety of the schedule, Michigan, of course, won the game last year, but the three most recent wins for Michigan in the series span, of course, 18 years, and they all came in the Big House. They haven't won in Columbus since 2000. I just posted a video the other day, kind of like a series, is this the year? Blank, fill in the blank. First edition was Michigan wins in Columbus for the first time since 2000. And if you check out both of these programs' metrics against top 10 to 15 opponents, they're on opposite ends of the spectrum, despite what happened at the Big House last year, especially Michigan on the road. 0-18 against top 15 opponents since 2006.
Wow. I would not have guessed that.
Yes. 8 of those under Harbaugh.